Good morning. Hope y'all are doing fine. My name is Tex. Thank you for joining me for Tex Talks. Had to put a lot of thought into this one because I would imagine I'm fixing to piss a lot of people off. And for that, I am sorry. And I ask for your forgiveness ahead of time. I always take the trainings I get and wrap them up into other trainings that I get and the people that I talk to and the therapy that I do in the outside world. And I put all these things and they're all rumbling around in my head. And over the years, I have heard, and for someone who's so horrible with language and twists it up and mispronounces words and all of that, for me to hone in sometimes on language and go, hey, wait a minute, what do you mean by that? Seems kind of funny. So I would like to talk about the whole idea of being non-judgmental. And we throw words at people and we tell them, to do things or not do things according to this plan or this thing we got going or this practice we have. And we don't take time to build a foundation to actually get to a point of understanding. And to me, this being non-judgmental is one of them. Um, my mind screams when I get told, that you should be non-judgmental. And my opinion, that word should. And if you haven't, there's videos on it. The very fact of saying being judgmental is not good is judgmental. You cannot escape it. In fact, I would imagine maybe because I like to consider that all things are possible, it may be possible to reach a place of being non-judgmental. First, you have to define what that space means and what it is you're actually conveying. See, a lot of times we develop practices and things from another culture or another place. The language doesn't translate, get interpreted quite with the same meaning it had in the old language. And it's very hard sometimes for some things to be explained. The idea of being non-judgmental, I am told, I'm not an expert, is this idea of not placing good or bad value. But if I actually go to the dictionary and I look up, please define what it means to judge, I get two kinds of definitions, because a lot of people, when you see the definitions, will be say to judge something is bad, to judge something is wrong. And I'm like, well, what if you judge it as good? And then people kind of trip and go, what? Well, I understand you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. I get that. Why do you tell me though, clothes make the man? It's assumed that there are going to be other people in the world who do judge. Oh, wait a minute. You just judged the idea that other people will be judging. We can play this game real far and real deep. In fact, some forms of judgment are necessary for survival. You walk across a rope bridge, and if it seems crickety, you're like, don't know, it might not be safe. You see a couple broken boards, you start thinking, this ain't good. This ain't safe. I don't like this. Paying attention to that may keep you from falling into the river. If it's good to reflect and ask yourself, why do I think these things? If you're walking down a street and you see someone who's different from you walking at you, you may have an inclination to instantly start thinking, oh, those people aren't safe. They're not like me. I need to cross the street. I need to do all that. And asking yourself, why do you feel that way is important. See, to me, maybe what they mean by being non-judgmental might be reflecting and accepting the fact that you're scared of somebody who's not like you. And then ask yourself, why are you scared of them? And maybe if I got to know them, be different. At some level, though, it's also important to realize that, in some situations, these things can save your life. If what's coming towards you is in a bus on the sidewalk, then going, this ain't safe, and moving might save your life. There are times when you have to walk that fine line between why am I doing what I'm doing and what's the purpose and what do I want to achieve and what's scaring me and what's happening. And people go, man, that's a lot to think about. And I'm like, again, what the hell else you got to do but think, people? Oh, wait, I forgot. Numb, so that you don't think and spend all that effort not thinking. So for me, being told not to judge is a confusing thing. Now, if someone says to me, reflect on what you're thinking and ask yourself, why are you feeling this way? Oh, see, that has a lot of weight with me. That carries far. I can handle that. Um, to me, judging would be like it's the same thing. If you go to a chili cook-off or a peach pie contest at the county fair, eating the different peach pies, and I am the judge and I have to pick the best. I judged. I judged according to my taste. That's the first thing to realize. It doesn't necessarily mean that this is the best peach pie. It just means that for my taste buds, this is the best peach pie. And also going into, well, why is that? Well, maybe today I'm particularly low in sugar and it's giving me the boost I want. Or maybe the flavor of the peaches reminds me of the peaches back home where I grew up from. They got a particular flavor, particular taste. It's like apples. Every apple has a little bit different flavor. And then according to the season and what happened, even the same type of apple could taste a little different. And I realize I have preferences and things I'd rather have and things I'll settle for. They aren't necessarily judging the apples as good or bad unless it's, ripe or not ripe, rotten or not rotten. So to me, these certain levels are just part of me and who I am. And I have difficulty with shutting that down. Now, I do work with my reactions. If I see something that I don't agree with, then I go through a whole process of why do I not agree? What am I thinking? What's going on? Where did that come from? Yes, it takes some time now. Down the road, it may speed things up a little bit. I think explaining what we mean and maybe asking people, what exactly do you mean by non-judgmental and why are you using that? Because it's now become a bandwagon that people jump on. And a lot of people will tell you, well, doing something according to the bandwagon theory of doing it is not necessarily the way to go about things. Taking things out, questioning them, asking if they work for you, if they have validity for you is a better way to come to a conclusion on things than, all these other, somebody in authority said do it, somebody that's an academician said do it, somebody that's a famous movie star said do it. All of my neighbors and friends are doing it. It's just that we sometimes we get into these things with words and then we expect everyone to know what we mean and we use the words without even thinking, what do the words really, really mean? And I'm assuming that's a dangerous one because remember that old ass out of you and me speech. But I do kind of get into this thought pattern of maybe you're telling me that when I see something, hold back for a second, if possible, and think about why I'm thinking it and don't necessarily label it as good as bad, but label it for what it is. In other words, it's a car. Now, sometimes what you'll do is you'll see a car and you immediately start going down this trail of, oh, it's a car. And it's a car that I like because I like this kind of car and it does this kind of thing for me and it represents this and I feel good. And you tumble down that rabbit hole or the rabbit hole of it's bad because the makers of that car are attached to this thing that I don't like and this thing in their history. And, we go down another rabbit hole. And we do this with people all the time because we cluster people into these groups, like, oh, you belong to this group. I don't like that group. I don't like that group because this thing that happened to me. And see, there's another rabbit hole. Instead of pulling together your ideas of a person according to the picture that person represents to you, and then also accepting the fact that things change over time, people change over time, my likes and dislikes change over time. Everything is in constant flux. To me, I go back to the idea that maybe the pain is the fact that when you judge, you hang on to that judgment, and then you experience the pain if anything changes and you don't like change, you don't like that difference, or you want something to fit into places. We like to organize things so that once we've judged it, we can put it in this box, and this is where this belongs, and we never going to let it move because we like things to be organized and clear. We like things to be put in their little, peg holes, their little shoe boxes sitting on the shelf, and we know where that is, and we don't have to think about that no more. It's a natural inclination for the human mind to want to have preset programs, decisions, things, so that it doesn't have to think. See, this is where the fun comes into it. Your brain, as a survival instinct, will say, give me a preset judgment that I can pull out in a situation and know what to do. Then I don't have to think, because thinking uses energy. And your brain is naturally trying to conserve its energy or use it in the wisest manner possible. So it says, if you can give me a bunch of preset things, I can put them here. I don't have to think. I can do this thing over here instead. And I think sometimes that's why we get into this loop of distraction or avoidance, because the whole idea of your brain was to say, give me these preset things, these judgments, these ways of thinking, and these, and make them solid and unchangeable, and stick them up here so that I have time to do the things I need to do. And in today's society, since there's not a lot of have to do's to survive, we have free time, which becomes painful to us, and we get scared. So instead of saying, well, I have free time, let me pull down my boxes and look at them again, we say, no, 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 I need to fill it up with something else. And then we start filling it with anything: alcohol, drugs, computers, phones, shopping, you name it. You can get addicted to it because it fills the hole. And the hole exists because our brain was trying to help us by putting everything away in a box up here. So judging is a sort of self-defense mechanism in my mind. It's a way of preparing you and giving you preset subroutines to run in your little program up here so that you don't have to actually think about things. And a lot of times it's about examining stuff. It's not about the idea that you're not going to label things as yummy or delicious or yucky or smells bad or smells good or whatever. You're going to do those things. The question is examining how you're reacting, why you're reacting, and what you're doing. Maybe it is quite possible. I can't argue that one, that there is a point where you won't judge anything. I don't see that. Now, maybe the word non-judgmental means something else. Then I'm always sitting there going, well, then why do you use the word non-judgmental if you don't expect people to take the word judge out and look at it? And then I hear, well, that's the best translation we can get because we got it from another culture, another idea, another philosophy. And I'm like, okay, all right, here we go. So think about what it means when you're being told these things, what you should and shouldn't do, which is funny. Like I said, we're right back to it. If you shouldn't be judgmental, I'm sorry, the very idea just cracks me up. I think it's, for me, maybe not for some of y'all, but for me, it's more important to ask myself, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I thinking what I'm thinking? What's going on with me? And how can I either change it for the better or re-examine it? Or what does it mean? And where did this come from? Instead of spending all my time trying hard to hammer myself into this square peg when I'm a big round wooden one here, you know? maybe pulling it out and looking at it and going, well, first, let's get to the point of what all this is doing to me and why I'm doing it and what's happening. That's just me. All right. Hope I didn't piss anybody off. Oh, bullshit. Yeah, I do. There are times when I enjoy pissing people off, and for that, I apologize. Uh, I like to piss my own self off. I like to think about what I'm doing because sometimes that gets me in motion and actually challenges me to not just sit on my laurels and not reflect and not think about what it is I'm saying, what I'm doing, and realizing all along that opinions, your thoughts, your feelings, they all are in flux and they're all changing, and re-examining what you're thinking, why you're thinking it, where you're going with it, what's happening. To me, that's very important for me. Maybe it is for you. I hope you have an awesome day, and I will talk to you later. Thanks.